send cars back and forth.
How are you? Come on right up.
We don't have anything tonight, so.
We have no agenda. We formalize that since this is official zoning board meeting.
Yes.
All meetings of the ZBA in order. And pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Worthy of note, there is a quorum for the ZBA. We have no old business or any new business. I will entertain a motion to adjourn the ZBA and conduct our joint meeting.
I'll make
with the
such a
ZBA.
motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Robert's Rules of Order. Gotta get it right.
You wanna, we'll start with Matt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so we've been in the process of trying to fine tune the zoning map and the districts.
Okay. I know we said you had some questions.
Yep, I do. So yeah, we did this map quite a while ago,
Yep.
and the staff person that did that is gone.
Okay.
And so unfortunately, we can't, basically, we can't recreate this, but it needs to be fine tuned anyway.
Yep.
Because there's some weird things going on where you've got the open space kind of slices through the Hamlet district here,
No, that's not open space.
or the blue there, whatever that.
That's just a river.
Land conservation, I'm sorry, land conservation.
That's a
But
river.
it overlays coming up Main Street,
Yeah.
so something, it just has to be
okay.
shaded.
Yeah, something's weird. So we've been trying to kind of fine tune the district boundaries to the parcel lines.
Okay.
And I've got like examples of that. And we could be done with the zoning map very soon, but there's just some questions I have about how exactly you want the lines to be.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of copies here. And that concerns the two Hamlet districts and the little commercial districts.
Yeah, because this map doesn't even show one of the commercial properties.
The little triangular
Yeah, there's one up
wedge.
here.
Yep, yeah, so we're gonna fix that. So here is, I guess we can pass these like either way.
There it is.
Wow, 707, new record.
I didn't know about the detour.
No,
And it's foggy up on the top of the hill. Anything else? You want to hear anything else?
Just blew in.
it was actually foggy down in the valley. You could see it from the top of the hill.
Oh, it was dense up there.
Did anybody not get one?
Yes.
I think there were 12 copies.
We have an extra one, we can set it down on the table, so nobody who's interested can look at it too.
Sure.
So what you're looking at here is the Westernville Hamlet zone and the commercial zone that is kind of the ski area. Based on following the property lines. And where we didn't follow property lines, it's a 600-foot buffer from the road, from Route 49 and whatever. 46 and whatever goes off of it, where the post office is, that road.
Right, that's
Gifford Hill.
Gifford Hill.
Gifford Hill Road, yeah.
Yeah, Gifford Hill Road. So questions are on this. First, with the Hamlet district, do we want the Hamlet to go to the far side of 46, where you kind of see it does toward the northeastern
Well,
section? Is that where, and it's really hard to, I guess now the Hamlet is doing, what is now the RC zone is doing that on the other side of
So long as the hamlet isn't preventing it from being part of the commercial overlay. Because that would be some of the best commercial property, this little bit on this northeastern corner of it. That would be some of your most valuable.
You know, on the other side of 46, yeah,
Yeah.
that commercial overlay goes down from Dop Hill Road along that entire span all the way up to Northwestern.
The way, so what I read in the zoning law as it is right now is that the commercial overlay kind of goes from Dixon Hill Road to the border of the first border of the Hamlet zone, and then starts again at the other end of the Hamlet zone and goes to Northwestern.
I thought we
Is
did.
that
I don't think we wrote it
I think we
that way.
had.
thought it was continuous.
I thought it was supposed to be continuous from
Let's
Dixon,
make
from
sure
Dixon
of
Drive
that.
all the way up 46 to the southern boundary of the Hamlet of Northwestern.
Yeah.
Which we figured, I think was
Yeah.
Tannery Road, we figured was or did we end up figuring Carmichael Hill Road on that?
Tannery.
Tannery.
Was it Tannery?
Yeah, Tannery.
It's,
Okay, no, it says, starting point of 500 feet south of the intersection of Dixon Drive and extending 600 feet west from the center line of New York State Route 46, starting at the northern boundary of the Hamlet or Westernville zoning district and expanding in a northerly direction to the boundary of the Hamlet of Northwestern. So we did kind of double
Okay,
speak a
so,
little
yeah,
bit.
that got double spoke, because that eliminates that whole southern one there.
No, I think we're gonna put that, it's gonna go from
Yeah.
500 foot below Dixon
Below Dixon Drive.
to,
All the way up to the southern boundary of the Hamlet of Northwestern. So
western.
It'll encompass that entire side of Route 46.
Okay, so that's both sides of 40, that's like a 600 feet each way of 46, or just the eastern side?
Just the eastern side, and from the northern side, it encompasses both sides of the road.
Okay,
So
so,
this end, we can't do this end down there because that's
because
state
the
of New York
water.
property.
Yeah,
Right.
so basically like it is here,
Yeah.
where it's the one side, the eastern
Yeah,
side
right.
till you get, okay.
I think that's fair, because everything's developed on the other side anyways. It's either lake or it's residential.
well, and you got the Black River Canal that
Right, you got the
Yeah.
canal there.
pain in
There's-
the ass to.
Yep. So in that case, it probably doesn't make sense to have this
Yeah.
sort of eastern, this part be in the Hamlet then. Probably run the Hamlet line right out
Yeah.
The only one is
46 with the exception of going out to capture
Yeah, we intended to capture part of the.
whatever hill that,
That's
yeah.
Gifford Hill Road.
Gifford Hill
He's the
Road.
youngest. My father's Jimmy.
Yep, okay,
There's Charlie, Jimmy,
Now,
okay.
coming up
Steve,
Gifford Hill,
and
these lines,
Diane.
how many feet is that?
That's 600 feet,
He's-
each
around
side.
Yeah.
The center line.
See, I don't know if Gifford Hill with some of the property that's here and some of the property that's there. I think
nobody's
that's pretty
heard.
deep for Gifford Hill to be in the Hamlet. Well, then we're gonna have, I think the Hamlet's only Gifford Hill should go to basically the back of these property lines of the homes that are up there, which are pretty uniform. And then the rest of that should go to whatever it goes to, and
It would be RRA.
see that, I remember
Yeah.
my own guy.
So like the first, looks like 6 lots on the north side there, cut it off at the end of that, those
Yeah,
first 6
they appear to
lots.
be about 200 feet deep.
Yeah.
I think we wanted it all the way up to that last house,
I'd wait for the traffic to clear, so yeah, man,
but it doesn't need to be as wide as our shore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These properties are pretty uniform here. That was a hand district, right even up to the back, on both sides of the
Wait,
road.
actually, they go down and turn around and come back, so
Yeah,
right now it's
include a
busier
lot of
than it
this
will
area,
be.
which could tell you over in Cemetery Road yesterday.
Yeah.
Over the main.
So what are you calling the last house there?
Just back. Oh, I think that would be like Gary Bartel's place right there.
Okay, so yeah, on that little south side.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I say, follow these property lines on both sides of Gifford Hill
To that,
up to that
Well, it
point.
might be easier just to, instead of a 600-foot boundary, make it 300, because I think that would encompass every one of those lots there.
okay,
And that way, instead of trying to follow lot boundaries, you've got a line that's 300 feet either side of the center line of Gifford Hill Road.
I just didn't wanna lose, where are we here? This field here.
Yeah, no, I would,
Which would be-
I would bring this back down here
Yeah.
and have it follow the, either the
Well,
center line of 46 or whatever, so this would do the same thing here.
yeah, so long, I still would like
And
to.
this would then be about here, and this one would be about there, so you're looking at something like this.
The only thing I'm trying to, is this corner here, this field, this could be some of our most productive, in the way of a commercial for a restaurant or that kind of stuff there. That's my only consideration, is that whole field, that's all nice drain, all of this up to where it is.
so do we have a consensus on that 300 feet?
300.
either side
I
of-
think that's.
That'll work, yeah.
Okay, so then we'll take this out of the Hamlet.
Right,
Yeah.
that section
Yeah,
It'll still
on
be
the
commercial
eastern
overlay.
side will
yes,
disappear.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so how about the southwest and northeastern terminuses of the Hamlet district? Are those where, I think that's came out of here,
Well,
is that?
when you get to this south
where
end
you
here,
put that?
everything south of that is basically state.
Yep.
You're never gonna do
Yeah,
anything with
that's all,
one or the other.
that's all state property, Parks and Recreation.
Your
Yeah.
parks and recreation,
Parks and
your
recreation.
canal,
Yep.
It's all New York State, so it'd be just the eastern side from there down to that 500-foot mark off of Dixon Drive.
Okay. So that southwestern boundary is good. How about the northeastern boundary of the Westernville Hamlet? Where it kind of ends there, at it looks like a field.
Probably should go back to.
That's the northern edge of the fire department's property.
We should
yeah.
probably back that out because that's a public safety.
Yeah. If it were me, I would use the center line of the old Black River Canal as the boundary.
That's going up. Okay, where that kind of connects out to 46.
Yeah.
Yep, okay,
And
we can do that.
to be honest, I mean, this little stretch, well, can that still be commercial overlay even in the Hamlet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Alright.
can apply it any way we want.
Well, then that won't, cause I mean, that, on the other side of the road is Mickey Woburn, so of course
Yeah,
it's
that's,
trying to sell anything and everything he can there, so.
Okay.
Diane, if you hear something you don't like, speak up.
So far, so good.
Okay, so I think we got that then nailed.
Yep.
Yeah, to be honest with you, if we took, I mean, you could in theory follow Main Street up to 46 and then just go right straight back to that other line, because from there on, we'll sit in RRA. And it's kind of inconsequential, but
I'd say so long as we can still do the commercial overlay, I see
yeah,
no problem.
you do the commercial overlay anywhere we lay it out.
And but right now that's going along the sort of the eastern
Yeah.
side, 600 feet through this entire.
But what Carl's saying now, you can see the end of Main Street there where it bugs out onto
You
46.
bring the canal
Yeah.
over, there's a little jog over there.
Yeah.
It's just a little north of the canal. If you come right straight from Main Street, right straight across, that would kinda, with the canal and
Come
that,
up where Main Street intersects, the north end of Main Street intersects Route 46. go at a right angle back 600, or whatever, 600 feet that we've got over there.
But that's not for the Hamlet, that would be for the commercial.
That would, yeah, that would define the hamlet boundary. Okay, so you'd be doing something like this, bring the hamlet down to here. So what we've done is we've eliminated the fire department and right across, and that was Maine's house.
You know, basically the ball field.
Yeah, well, we left the ball field right where it was.
Can you show me that line?
Yeah. So what we're looking at is we've come down the center line of the canal
Yep,
from that southern pipe,
doing that.
then from the intersection of the canal with Main Street
Yep,
to the intersection of Main Street with the center line of 46.
yep, okay,
And there, at a right angle to 46, back 600 feet to that other line.
okay. So we wanna keep this
You wanna-
area in the
You'd
hamlet.
want to keep, this area goes out, okay? So the hamlet becomes in here, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I thought we were getting rid of the hamlet on the south side of, like, getting rid of this out of the hamlet. On the eastern side of 46.
Yeah, we could.
Like the line would go kind of
We
like
could,
this.
so
back.
then the line would just come down the
Yeah.
center line of 46,
Yeah, and
so it intersects that 300-foot boundary.
yeah,
So all of this comes off the,
yeah. And that would all go,
Yeah.
it would all be in the commercial.
yeah, the commercial overlay will sit on top of it, and it'll be the RRA district.
Okay, okay, I think we got that. I think we got
Okay.
that nailed. So that, on the same piece of paper, the commercial
Yep.
district here, trying to make that kind of fine tune it with the property lines, that kind of just, is the intent that just takes in the ski area?
Yeah, I guess the question,
No.
Unassociated
No,
parcels?
there's actually,
There's more stuff
that
there?
right there is that's a manufacturing plant.
there's a small
Okay.
manufacturing
There's a
thing. That was the original
That's
CI
why it's
district.
Yeah.
A little tiny thing.
Yeah,
And I don't know if we want to put
yeah,
Woods Valley in the commercial district or not. I mean, right now they sit in an RA district, most of it is in an RA district as such.
yeah,
And the current thing authorizes a ski area in an RA district.
yeah, because that's probably
Surprise
okay
of all
then.
surprises.
What if they wanna put something down by the road, type of a business?
The commercial overlay would
Commercial
go.
overlay.
The commercial
Yeah.
overlay would sit on
Yeah.
top of
Okay.
it.
Okay,
I don't know now if we do that line, if that matches up with the old line. It's hard to tell because there's no,
yeah, this is
There's no-
really hard to interpret.
Yeah,
anything
you
on
can't,
that-
you can't tell from that map,
on that
really.
map.
because, see, there's a creek that comes out there. And this one doesn't show that creek. But I think that creek is over towards Freeze's.
Well, yeah,
I think that line actually went through the cornfield. The way that's
Which
represented
one are we
there.
talking
yeah,
about?
that creek kind of
Commercial one?
snuggles down by the sign and then across by Freeze's. It
See,
runs pretty straight
right
from
there's
there.
Freeze's house.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of bisects that cornfield.
No, the creek doesn't. The creek stays on the north end of the cornfield.
No, Freeze's down.
He's down here, okay.
Yeah, it's not, it shows a culvert on the other, because that creek comes out and runs along 46 and then goes across.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it kind of,
I mean, it has the north border is Tug Hill Road. And I just don't know how far back it went from there to the,
see, I think it did something like that is what it's supposed to be doing. Because it's square to 46.
I'm looking at north going this way.
Yeah,
Well, once the creek hits 46, it is a straight line right to the lake.
right, and that's where, if you look at that creek, it's straight off that south border.
It kind of,
Yeah, because where's is this the plant here?
Yes, that's the manufacturing.
Yeah.
manufacturing plant is behind the creek. Then the creek comes out and meanders through that.
Right.
They keep it mowed there where the Woods Valley sign is and
Well,
everything.
you see, the Tug Hill is this boundary, and then just leave it where this one is.
Right, I don't know if we try to interpret this new one or try to match with the old
Well,
ones.
actually, if
It
we had a
shouldn't change
tax
anything,
map,
So,
if we had a tax map. it'd
I don't
show
think that goes off a tax map.
Well, this-
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying though, what's
Yeah, I mean,
the,
this is the tax map.
That's the
This-
tax
this
map
is-
you're looking at.
This is
Yeah,
showing
this
all
is
your
the tax
parcels.
map.
Right.
And the thin black lines are tax
Well, I
map.
meant, that's not
Yeah.
tax map,
Yeah,
That
was.
was, this
that
one,
was-
this one is the tax map that has all the
Yeah.
parcels on it.
Yep, so as long as you're encompassing, you know, what's, at least what's encompassed now, you shouldn't be any issue.
and then you'll see, like you look at how they interpreted it before,
Yeah.
because there's the other piece, so that it would've came out just a little bit, but
see
it's,
that,
the commercial overlay should already encompass it, so.
right. But that little black line through there, I mean, that creek might have a few bends and twists if that ain't shown, but that's probably as close as you're gonna get it.
Well, if we try and match that as best we can where the current one is, I mean, I had not anticipated turning Woods Valley into a commercial industrial zone.
Okay, so we'll nix that.
I'd say, could,
That would,
consider,
yeah,
we'd leave that would
Leave that in
become part of
RA.
RRA and the ski area is authorized within that or whatever.
because that's why the original RA had the
Ski area
recreational.
added, yeah.
Well, it had, it had.
It actually had as an allowable
Yeah.
use, yeah.
Yeah,
Because that was already there, but that
Okay.
So we
manufacturing
would-
plant was there for
We would keep
120 years.
keep the existing one that's there.
so,
And
so,
if push comes to shove, the ZBA has the authority to define what the boundaries are, if it needs to be clarified.
so what would our boundary be for that CI zone here following? How would we do it, how would we draw it on this map?
Well, it's pretty well drawn there, I mean, you got, Dop Hill Road comes up,
Yep, okay,
you got
Right
your,
now, it looks like it runs down to the center line down to 46.
yeah,
Then up Dop Hill Road and up to their property line and then straight over and then back down.
Yeah,
that
so
black
kinda-
line that would represent the creek would be the
Yeah.
western border of it, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah,
Cause then
something
you
like
see
that.
them
If-
other houses
Yeah, so that's
encompassed.
basically it.
Yeah, the only other thing would be is just come off this corner and, or come off of here at a 90-degree angle, come back to that corner, because that's what what it looks like, it's almost a square, but it.
okay.
But,
Like
yeah,
Carl
that-
said, that's,
That pie-shaped piece goes with that
Yeah.
property, but I don't know if that
Dop
was.
Hill becomes one, the northern boundary, and then the rest of it is the property lines there, or the creek if you so
Yeah.
choose.
something like that, man.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
like I say, it comes down, that little pie-shaped piece
Yep.
goes with the owner's property.
Okay. Okay, so, yep, we got that as CI, we'll take the ski area out. So that gets us that Hamlet zone and that
Yep.
CI zone. Now, there's another CI zone that's this little wedge
It's up north, it's a wedge up farther
to
north,
this
yeah.
little,
Now, I'm not 100% sure on the zoning, is the Legion considered in that commercial area or not? Or is it just Joe Jones's property?
I don't actually know.
I would say yes, because it looks like it goes back.
Well, yeah, cause that goes right down to the
The
front of
canal.
Warren's house.
Right, and the canal pinches it
Yep.
off.
Yep.
So it looks, it's like 50 feet below Kirk Road. It goes out at a 90 and then goes back along the canal,
Yeah,
back to
you're
that
talking
point.
about here? Well, this is basically it here.
Well, Kirk Road's here, so it comes out on the southern, it's like this.
Oh, okay, it's bigger than mine.
If you go
Right,
off of that.
if you can picture the place, the bank on the, that's, his property line's right to the top of the
Yeah,
bank.
so one boundary would be the center line of the canal right away. Another boundary would be the center line of
So
46.
Kirk Road is right there.
Kirk Road's here,
So
okay.
it would come off like this, and that matches, that triangle is what is
okay, so
there.
that's a little bigger, okay, yeah.
Yep. Because that one actually has a road that we can reference
Yeah,
versus the other one that we don't have.
yeah, we only have one
Well-
boundary reference on the road.
You got the road and the canal, cause that's the
Yeah,
back line
that's
of
what
the
it, and
canal.
that's what they, and that lines up with the canal line.
Then I think that property in the gully where the trail used to come up out of there, I think is your mom and dad's property, ain't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we got that one. So the next is the northwestern Hamlet boundary. Want to dial that into the to the property lines or a buffer, distance off of 46.
You got Phil.
Just one of these?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's what-
You want me to pass these out then?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Just one of these, so I'll leave it for everyone to share.
So this would be Northwestern, which is a combination of property lines and also where there aren't any, a 600-foot buffer off of 46.
See, the thing that doesn't show on here is the actual, I'm looking at the wrong one again. Yeah,
I think we're going up into Tannery Road, like this whole knob here is what Roger owns, it's all hill and way out of the,
I'm not sure that needs to be in there.
yeah, I think we could almost go from this corner to here. And, you could even tie it in closer down here, I think, and come to that corner point, but even that, you way out in the boondocks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
These property lines here are pretty deep. Maybe we should almost come back more to them.
well, we can do something like this, we just bring this line straight across.
Well, yeah, but like I say, you're still out, even on these properties, you're out in the boondocks pretty good
Yeah,
here, because those are pretty deep property lines.
yeah, it's all on the side of a hill too,
Well,
so.
yeah, you could almost use those property lines,
So, yeah, less,
come right back, yeah, you could cut a lot of that
Yeah,
off.
the only problem I have with property lines is they can change.
You know,
Yeah,
Doesn't mean the
if
zoning.
you've got a defined distance, you're a lot better off. Now, one of the things I noticed on the, I guess it'd be the western side of 46, down here, I'm not sure we want to count that as Hamlet. I mean, that's all farm field there.
yeah, it's all Smowski's pasture, actually. There again, you could come back more closer to these property lines. That canal line, I guess, would be,
Would there ever be opportunity for something to be done with that field in the future?
it's kind of wettish. I would think that there would be property opportunities more advantageous to somebody than some of that down in there.
Yeah, you can do that, but I mean, if you let it revert back into the RRA, it pretty much opens it up for whatever somebody wants to do.
See, the whole trouble with everything to the left of 46 as you're looking at this is the ground is so close to the rock.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the gray water comes across Samowski's land here. He could shut that, you know, he could make Northwestern a ghost town. Real easy. I mean, everything in there. The real estate transfers for 90% of that have been within the family. Because most of the water comes from spring boxes up in here. You know, nobody's got a well, 'cause the rock's right there. I mean, if you go 3 feet before you hit the solid rock, you've got a deep pocket. I mean, it's pretty close there.
How deep do you think those lots are? On
I think they're about 200 feet,
alright, 200-ish.
250 feet.
do you wanna just do, we'll say 300 off of Mill Street? So that way you
Which
have
is
it,
Mill Street, this,
yeah, no,
The branch, the
So, up
southern
here.
branch, yep. That's
and then that 300 feet would take out that pasture, and then 300 feet off of 46 would make your corner.
yeah.
And then do the same thing on the other side, which
I mean,
is all,
you could, like I say, you basically come back 300 feet from here, I'm not sure what the scale is, but
right,
about like so, just come right up to the canal center line, you use the canal center line as the or 46 for that matter. Just use 46 as the border and just turn this back into RA.
I don't, cause what do you think, Phil?
I mean, the idea with the Hamlet was is to capture the areas that are the population concentration.
The current, not an
Yeah,
expandable,
the current, not an
current existing.
expandable capability.
Well,
It's not like it- not
What
like
we
it-
finally came up with was our main criteria for a hamlet, church.
Yep.
And there's a
Church,
church there.
So, a lot of them have churches.
Or a bar, take your pick.
Well,
Yeah.
most of them are gone now.
Yeah,
Okay.
truth.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll do,
So what, do we do, can
So-
someone
So you
sketch
wanna
that
do
out?
that, so we just, we'll go 300 feet.
so we'll go, if you want, you can use your pen if you wanna mark it. So we're gonna go, so this is Mill Street.
Yep,
We're gonna go 300 foot off of there
okay.
and then go all the way back to 46. Yeah, be 300 foot. And then we'll do the same thing off of River Road. And then that gives that
Right there,
one.
River Road, that's the river.
Right.
So we're talking about,
It ain't going
we're talking
nowhere.
about this
To
field
be
here.
honest, what I
That's
would,
a good boundary.
You're gonna go
Yeah,
like
the
this
river
and
would be a
like
good
this.
boundary.
yeah,
Right.
what I would do down at the
We'll make
center
sure I'm
end,
following
where you
that
got
over
this
here.
jog down
And they
here,
talk about the canal, this is the
I would
canal?
just take this line and carry it right
Good,
straight
good,
across
good.
to here.
That's the river.
I don't see any point in having that jog in here, just
No.
make it straight
But
down.
also they wanna come down.
In fact,
here.
it's gonna disappear anyway because
Oh, cut
we
this
use,
back.
we use the road anyway.
What is this, Carmichael Hill?
This is
That'll all
Tannery
disappear.
Road,
So we
okay,
have
sorry.
that as the boundary
But
instead
this
of the
is
existing one.
right behind those houses.
Alright,
Steep
so what are we
hill.
talking there?
I mean, that's,
So-
this is flat, this
This
is
would
side hill.
be,
Then it's
so
46.
that's gonna go there.
Here's the old canal
Canal
here.
is gonna block anything here, cause this is
Canal
canal.
must have come
Yep.
through here.
So the line is actually
Somehow,
goes center
probably
line to
went
here,
right through 46.
down to
where it
here,
is,
and
and
then this
Mm-hmm.
part here disappears.
Okay.
And it's kind of,
They filled in.
kind of,
they must have
that's
filled in the
all
canal.
old canal down through there too. Everything behind
Yeah.
that is,
Cause you can't cross the, if
This
you were
is
gonna
Bucket.
develop that, it'd have to
Just
come
getting my
off Mill
bearings.
Street
Yeah.
anyways.
Okay.
But you can't cross the
Let me
canal.
go,
Okay.
quick run out to my car and see if I've got.
All right.
Okay.
That I drew up.
see this?
And then on this one, because I couldn't see exactly,
All right,
they
now
were
we're
talking
looking at
about
this, you come up
taking
through,
Woods Valley out,
see, that's the canal there.
300
Yep.
feet.
They had
So it
homes
crosses.
And then cutting this
between
narrowing
the
that
right of way of
there
46 and the right of way of the
And I think
canal,
they
they
do
owned
this.
about that much down through the
And
middle of
then
their
down
house, but
here.
some of them are gone now.
Yep.
So I mean, really, the back side of that line,
So
somewhere
bring this
here.
for the canal.
yeah, I would, I
Leave
can't,
the ball diamond.
yeah, it don't make any sense.
And then just sort of follow
Right, okay,
these
so
around.
then, and this is the
Yeah,
canal here?
kinda,
Yes, that's a dump from the
'cause
canal.
I mean, there's a cluster of homes
300
here.
foot off of 46.
Yeah,
This is-
yeah, cause
So
I
the
think
new-
you're gonna find that's pretty, some of them lots, like Canuties and stuff are pretty close.
Well, I was wondering if it was here or over the line.
But it,
Okay.
see, this is all the way up in the boonies here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Shit, that's a Pete Beezy's place.
So then they're trimming this back to around
Yeah, right
here?
here where Main Street comes out.
Yep.
Yeah.
See where Main
it's
Street
all-
comes
Yep,
out?
yep, right
So
there.
we'd wanna take it.
Somewhere.
So this,
Something
all
like
these
this.
lines should
Yes.
move up to
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
Yep.
So these houses here wouldn't
Down
be in.
to.
I don't think so, that's Mickey.
Yeah.
Like I
Okay,
say,
that's
most,
Mickey's house.
most of these homes, even down into here, are fed
I mean,
their water
like
from
I said,
shut
those
boxes
point was
there.
to
And
capture
the problem
what's
here,
already
you-
there.
I mean, you could, we could include them,
Okay.
but they're never gonna go anywhere, because they're built into the side of the bank.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're gonna expand.
Okay.
And this is all, like I say, there's a cluster of homes
Yeah.
here, and then Tannery Road. And then you start with, cluster of homes, so I mean, that,
Okay, so well, yeah, that kinda makes sense.
but like I said, the topography of that is,
Uh-huh.
I know she has a lot of them.
I gotta go this way.
So the canal property kinda crosses the road there.
Yes. Yep.
Interesting, okay.
that's why the halfway house was the halfway house. It's kinda halfway between Boonville and Rome.
Yeah. Interesting.
No, what was interesting was living through the era of the halfway house.
Right.
That was interesting. A lot of stories been told from a lot of different points of view. We're still all there.
The only other, we're doing RC, right, I think was the one Standish
Yep,
Yep.
and Tujica.
yep.
Yeah, so that stays the same.
Huge again, and then we go RC with that bit of Elmer Hill Road
Yes.
over in ours.
Yeah, which represented on this map.
Yep.
Yeah, residential community.
Okay. So are we, how about for going back to the northwestern hamlet, for the northeastern terminus, does that look correct?
Yes.
On the northwestern side, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
okay.
I guess it's up to the board unless you want to go to the bridge.
What, actually for what's encompassed here, you don't make it to the bridge. I mean, the bridge is right there anyway, there's
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah, that's pretty far.
I don't think we need to go that far.
Okay. It's
Okay.
just throwing it out there, we'll leave it the way it is.
Okay.
I mean, that's, by the looks of this, they took that, basically the border of the river through most of that, which ain't changing. It's gonna meander a little bit, but overall it's gonna change.
Yeah, you still have a pretty good idea of where that effectively the line is. Okay, so I think we got that one. So this is sort of the big picture.
They got a couple extras here.
Big picture.
Nobody's ever talked in terms of Western being the big picture.
The overlay, there's the
It's just a
CI,
little squared off.
just that little squared off thing there.
Yep.
There's the other CI there, so I mean, if you want to take this as a partial reference, and then we did the same thing with the Hamlet, that's pretty much the way you guys laid it out.
That's, yeah.
The river, and then the same thing for
Yeah.
Western. I don't think, yeah, we carried the Hamlet across, but it didn't carry up to this side of 46.
Yep,
I think you have this.
yes, yep. Okay. All right, so making progress here. So,
All right.
yeah, the big map, that shows the three pieces of open space on the northern,
Yep.
which is this, exactly the same as this, I
Yeah.
believe. Double check that.
Looks pretty close.
Yeah, we didn't change that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, these three chunks.
I'm looking at that the same way I'm looking at that one, it's,
Yeah,
it's
it
coming
should
right
should
down.
be the same.
Yeah,
But it's just snapped to the property lines. And then in the southeastern, you've got that little piece of
Yeah, there's
OS,
this little chunk down there.
which is the same.
Standish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the RC, the three little pieces of RC in the southwestern.
Yep.
So-
Yeah, so it's that Elmer Hill Road corner, tip of Tayujiga, and then we decided to include Standish.
Standish.
Yep. So those are all good.
Yep.
So that will make it a lot easier to just add, so the commercial overlay, 500 feet from 500 feet south of Dixon Road, up the eastern side of 46 to the Hamlet, through the Hamlet on the eastern side, and then both
And
sides
on both sides, all the way
up
here.
to the northwestern Hamlet.
Yeah.
And then on the north side of the lake, from the town boundary to the
Yeah,
bridge,
from
it
the
says
west-
in
from
the zoning.
western boundary to the bridge.
Okay. And then that'll be easy to add, and then the land conservation is just this buffering of certain streams.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, we've got the buffer
then
around,
the lake.
around Delta Lake.
Yeah,
And then this section here is what FEMA labels as the floodplain.
okay, through the
That's
floodplain
a
of
100-year
the,
floodplain, and then from there north, in fact, I even think parts of this were labeled as floodplain, that's where I got those from. But all of the feeder streams are just a 50-foot wide buffer from the center of the stream.
Yeah, I think some of this, the reason it's in land conservation too is because of the extreme slope.
Right.
Because that's not low ground in there.
Oh,
It's
no,
just
no.
straight up and down.
Might even be a conservative blue line through there for that.
Yeah. Well, those maps that I brought in on Grievance
Yeah.
Day, that's what, if you look at, that's what they were mocking, or not
Yeah.
mocking, or copying.
That's what I did a lot of times, even with the soil types, and I laid the other map right over top of it. There it is, you know.
Yeah, so it goes to the north edge of the bridge,
Yep,
is that the other
Yep.
Stokes Westernville commercial overlay.
yep, so until you hit the bridge, that's it.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so that's answers my questions.
Okay.
Now, these maps, the way you brought them in and draw it out, it put it into perspective pretty good for us
Yeah, and do we have to make sure that what's written in the text
Matches.
matches
Matches it, yeah.
that?
there. The fact that you could even show the buildings.
Well, I think there's a
and
couple of
stuff.
places, I think there's a
Really
couple of
helps.
places in there where
Yeah.
it said refer to the map.
Yep, and yeah, the map is, that's the final ruling.
Like I say, where you got this photographic mapping in here, now you can look, I know that building, that
Yeah.
Yep,
really helped bring it, pop it out to life.
I think almost all of these are state-owned, state or county-owned properties.
yep.
That's like up back at the farm there up at Gary's. They own right up to about 40 feet from where it drops off like that.
Yeah.
Last time the county had it logged off, the guys that were going down in there with the log skidders, they'd lose oil pressure, it was so steep on the motor going.
Well, Matt's here, do you wanna?
Yes,
On this?
based on what you sent me a few months ago,
Yeah.
I started to put together a statement of the determination, and I
Oh,
did fill
right
out,
on procedure.
I did fill out EAF 1 and 2.
Yep, wow, okay. So this is like an addendum,
Well, that's,
or this is the
basically what you
explanation?
sent me was, examples of the EAFs, and then you sent me an example, this came from the town of Skinny Atlas,
Yes.
when they passed their comprehensive plan. So
Yeah.
I kind of went through and edited out the comprehensive plan stuff,
Yep,
and then focused it more on the EAF. And basically what, it says, like, here's what we did, and then it covers each one of the sections within the EAF form that says, we looked at it,
yep,
no impact, we looked at it, or no significant impact all the way through.
yep, with a good explanation.
Yeah, now, rather than just, I'm not proposing that we as the boards, just take this and say, oh yeah, that's good, let's pass it. We are gonna have to sit down and walk through part 2, make sure that everybody's happy that nothing in the new zoning law is going to be considered any kind of an impact. Because that's what we're saying on that over there, and eventually, the names will be recorded as to who voted in favor of all of these things. The way Skinny Atlas did it, and I haven't written that part up, is they actually have a paragraph in there that says, and they did it through their town board, not through the planning board. And they said the town board reviewed each and every one of the factors in the EAF and voted no impact on each and every of the items. So they went item by item and said, no, there's no impact, and then they finalized, so this is a type 1, we're making a negative declaration, which says, no environmental impact statement is required. And that ends the secret process right there, if it does.
Did you have extra copies of that?
Of this?
Yes.
Yes.
These are
I think
extras.
I printed up about 8 of them.
Yes.
Were you looking for these?
No, this right here, so there's 3 for you guys.
Yeah, I also, this sheet has on it, this is an extract from the course that the Department of State offers to understand the secret process. But it talks about the environmental assessment form, procedural compliance, the types of reviews, and then criteria for for significance. So I think I made enough copies that just about everybody here at the table can have one. And this is available on the Department of State's website. If you go look it up, they have specific training, so if everybody wants to get a copy of that. That's background on what the review process is all about. So, you know, we've done part one is not a problem, that just identifies it. This is a long form, but it looks at everything that actually, for example, under part D, project details. So what's the general nature of the proposed action? So revision and updating of the existing zoning ordinance. Total acreage, not applicable. There's a proposed action, an expansion of the existing. So most of the stuff in here is no, because what we're doing is passing a law. We're not actually taking any action involving an actual piece of land.
Well, that's the nicest thing you give me all evening, Gene.
Okay, and it looks at things like land uses, any other things. So this is intended, if you have a project that's coming in that's proposing to do something, this identifies all of the things on a specific project that could possibly be something to be considered. So I don't have too many copies of this because it's a lot of pages and I'm running out of ink in my printer. The part two is the identification of possible impacts. Okay, and what you see on those various items in there would be a typical review of the items. So here's one, impact on land. So proposed action may involve construction, physical alteration, of any land surface. Okay, no, it's a law. Okay, impact on geological features. You know, we're not proposing any action on that. On surface water, no, we're not doing any of that. In fact, I think there might even be a statement said, you know, we've included a land conservation district to protect those water resources. Same thing with groundwater, flooding, all those other things are considerations under part two. So part one, in theory, if a guy was coming in with a project, they would fill this out and bring it to us. Okay, because we're the lead agency and we're the ones writing the new law, we fill this out. Okay, and then we will go through part two and do the evaluation to determine whether or not there's any significant impacts. Okay, and once we do that review, assuming we don't find anything in particular, if there are no impacts, which is what we're proposing in there, we declare it a negative, what they call a negative declaration that says, no, what we're doing has no negative impact on, no projected negative impact on the environment. And for secret process, that's it, it cuts off right there. If we were to identify a potentially significant impact, then we can declare a conditional negative declaration that says we found an impact, but there's a mitigation for it that handles it without a problem. Okay, that again, if you declare that, that ends the process. But if there's anything in there that says this is a potential impact, remediation is required, then you gotta do the environmental impact statement that says here's the concerns, here's what we're doing to handle the thing, and here's the, you know, the evidence that, you know, that we're gonna take care of this, or that something will still exist. So that's the steps on the thing. So normally for things like a zoning law or comprehensive plan, they almost always end up as a negative declaration because they're, you know, they're a paperwork thing.
Forgot totally.
Oh, I did, you're right. I had them on the list too, didn't put them in there. And one of the things in there is, we do require that Oneida County Planning Department review it, 239M, just like we had to do for the fire department. They get a voice in it, but because we are the lead agency, we are conducting what you'll see on the paper as a coordinated review. Okay, so if we declare it as a negative, that's it, it's up to us to do that. And we would pass this, the environmental form, the draft copy of the ordinance and everything else, and as the planning board, we would sign off on it, hand it over to the town board and said, here, it's yours, hold a public hearing and decide whether or not you want to pass the law. So that would be, that's the procedures that remain right now. So we need to sit down at some point, walk through this part two, assure ourselves that we've covered any potential impacts, and then we vote on this, you know, vote to agree with this, and then we're done with our part of it. And the town board would take it, they would provide notice to everybody. And unless Oneida County comes back with comments, then we would incorporate them in the ordinance.
By the time we hand this off to the town board, they're looking at probably 2 months to complete their end of it.
Well, they have to go through the same procedure as when they amended the existing ordinance, is that a town board member would have to make a motion to adopt the new zoning law. And once that's done, then they would hold a public hearing. That would be at the next meeting, they'll hold a public hearing, public comments are incorporated. If there's nothing significant, they can vote on it right then and there and pass it. In which case, it gets sent off to the Department of State, and when they record it, it becomes law.
And the county review's in there.
The county review is in there,
Send it to
yeah,
the county.
we would send that off to them as part of the review process. That's our responsibility, is to send it to them. And there's an online 239 form that they have, so we would do that and provide them copies of the zoning ordinance and the map.
And that, yep.
So yeah, as soon as you can get us a corrected map back, the faster we can do that.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, if you look at that little procedure sheet, you don't have to have the 239 review back before you can finalize what you're working on. Which kind of surprised me, because anything else you do has to have it before you can even act on it.
Yeah, they have 30 days to
They have
look at it.
30 days to get back to us.
Yep, and if they don't, then you're
If they
free to
don't, we
proceed.
assume that they're happy. And from the few people I know in the Oneida County Planning Board, it's hard to tell whether they're ever happy, so.
Yeah, I think they're gonna.
I think they're very busy, they're gonna look at it and say, any strange stuff in here we need to know about? If not, we're done. Yeah, because the truth is, we're not making any, other than redefining some of the zones and adding the overlays, we're not making any significant changes from the existing law,
Yeah,
other than having a lot more
Cleaning it up.
definitions and a Hamlet district.
And the public hearing part of it falls to the town board.
That's, yeah, the town board would move to adopt the law, then they would hold a public hearing. If there's public comments you want incorporated into it, that can be done, and then you would take a vote on it to put it, actually put it into law. And that falls in Charlie's lap. But if we have everything pretty much done ahead of time, he will be as happy as Charlie is ever happy, so.
Well, the fact that we've involved the town board through this process
Yeah,
should
yeah,
help
yeah.
them. It's not like they get a big fat book thrown in their lap and gotta go through it all at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there is a draft copy of the ordinance on the town website. I sent that off to Larry, and he's already put it on there, so it's been available for anybody who wants to read through it, see what's in there.
Great.
And I sent him, he does not have the spreadsheet with the dimensional stuff on it yet, nor does he have a copy of the map. Because we haven't finalized that, so.
yeah.
But as soon as we have those, we'll give it to Larry, and he can put that on his sheet. So. I don't know if your GIS system can reduce that to a PDF that somebody can put on there and look at or not.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, these are PDFs.
Okay.
So, yep. Absolutely. One last question I had after the last meeting and looking through the text one last time is the procedure for something that's being developed in the commercial overlay. Now, is that the ZBA?
That's a planning board.
ZBA.
Planning board is responsible for that.
Planning board does the special use
The
permit
planning board
review.
reviews that use. They can either, and I don't remember exactly how I wrote it up, but I think they can either approve it or they can pass it to the ZBA, who would normally approve special use permits.
Yeah, so the ZBA is doing special use permits
Right.
for everything except for
the
commercial overlay, and that is the planning board.
That is the planning board's
Okay.
responsibility.
All right, just wanted to clear that up.
And I think our zoning permits, like we were talking last week about the sheds and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, for anybody that's interested, one of the things we defined in here, the current ordinance talks about building permits. Codes officer looks at what you want to do, if you conform with zoning, fine, but he still has other things that he needs before he can actually issue a building permit. The way we wrote this is the first thing he would do was review the application, determine whether or not it meets the zoning requirements. If it does, he will issue a zoning permit. Okay, that says, okay, you are compliant with everything in our zoning law. Or if not, he would say, no, you have to go talk to the ZBA and get a variance or whatever. Or if it's a special use permit, he would refer it to us to review and approve the special use permit.
The onset of this, can we come up with a page of plain language on that to explain it to people a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good, this is what procedural, what do you need to do to get a building
Well,
permit
it's-
and or a zoning
Yeah,
permit?
we can work with Scott to do that, because he has things that he wants, so he would rule, his first determination would be whether or not you meet the zoning requirements. Then his next determination is, bring me all your plans, because I have to see if you conform to the uniform code, the fire code, the energy code, the sanitary code, and the electrical code, before he's ever gonna issue a building permit. And one of the reasons why we separate is because there are so many things that go into a building permit that are not actually zoning related.
Well,
They're requirements for whatever you're going to do within zoning to meet the
and
city.
I've been cornered by people, why do we need these zoning permits separate from the building?
Some uses aren't structural.
Well, and when somebody does something that infringes upon your property, you're gonna be glad it's there.
And it keeps you from walking in with, if you buy a piece of property and say, hey, I want to do this with it. And you walk into the codes officer and he says, it doesn't conform to zoning, I can't issue you a zoning permit. It keeps them from developing a full set of plans and taking all of the other actions to go forth and do whatever it is they're gonna do, before they get themselves in trouble and spend a lot of money.
The simple explanation I have for zoning is, for every one thing you feel is encumbering upon you, there's been 5 things you never even knew about that helped you.
Yeah.
It's just the truth to it. People they think it's an infringement on their rights.
Yeah, but
That's not.
the idea of having that, well, it is an infringement on their rights, but the courts have said that, within the bounds of the, the
It's
laws,
also protecting you.
that it protects you
The value
and
of your property.
because they act in at least the intent of the thing is to act in the general public interest.
The definition of a right is to do what you want, when you want, where you want, until it infringes upon the right of somebody else to do the
else's right,
same. And every definition in zoning works that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the purpose of it, and you read through the introduction to the thing, there's, general statement of purposes as to why you do this.
Nobody reads them.
But it explains why the law is there in the
Yeah.
first place, so you have to, understand this is why you do that, and there's a reason for it. Yeah, so the idea with the zoning permits now, one of the provisions that actually exists in the uniform code itself is that if you have a building or structure of 144 square feet or less, a building permit is not required. Okay, and that was amended, there was an amendment passed to the town law that said, yeah, under 144 square feet, you don't need a building permit. The problem with that is that the codes officer then is never aware of somebody building something, and he has no opportunity to determine whether or not you meet things like the dimensional requirements.
But
Or if you're gonna build your kids a playhouse and it's 12 by 12, okay, he is obligated to make sure that that thing is safe for human occupancy.
see,
And if he's never informed of it, he can't do that.
at one time, our zoning definition of a building was anything with a roof. That was it.
Yeah, we now have a different definition of a structure. And it's a more modern definition that everybody's adopted.
So what we have in here, for the commercial overlay, it's permitted within a defined zone, will be granted a special use permit by the planning board without the granting of a use variance.
That's right.
Yep, okay.
Yeah, so what it does is it bypasses the variance process, and as the members of the zoning board know, and probably the rest of us, getting a use variance is very difficult, and the way the law is written, it's intended to be very difficult. And actually, it's interesting because the original concept behind the use variance process was to avoid undue hardship. And what's interesting, when you read back through the court cases, and the really defining one was the auto case, and I forget what town it was against, but the courts defined what has to be done for each one of the 4 tests that is defined within the municipal law. And one of the things they said, you have to come in with definitive proof that without the use variance, you can't get a reasonable return on the particular piece of property. And they said that has to be done in writing with actual financial evidence. So you can't come in and say, well, if you don't give me this, I can't operate my business. Well, that has nothing to do with your land. That's too bad. You have to show that you couldn't make any kind of return. And I know there was discussion when Jeff Petrowski came in, that if you have an alternative, you should take it. If you're not, otherwise, if you don't get your use variance, otherwise you got to be able to prove it. And if you can come in and prove it, then the zoning board is generally obligated to grant that variance. Once those 4 tests are met, you have met the standard for a use variance. Without meeting those, all 4 of them, you're not supposed, and the courts have routinely tossed out permits that were granted, or use variances that were granted, that somebody protested, and the courts will say, show us the evidence that you used to determine that the tests were met. And if you can't walk into court and show the judge that you had, here's the evidence, all the stuff that came in, they're going to toss it out. And I've read at least 4 or 5 cases that they provided us in some of the training stuff, where the court said, you did not establish that the appellant actually met the tests, and if you don't establish it, you are not authorized to grant it.
I've never liked the terminology. What is a fair, reasonable rate of return?
It's not even it's just the terminology is a reasonable return. Not rate of return, just a reasonable return.
What is a reasonable return?
And they have never defined it. I couldn't find anything.
Is it financial return? Is it in the sense of personal enjoyment?
No, it's considered financial. It's considered financial return. Dollars and cents.
So is it 1% a year appreciation? Is that reasonable, or 2%? We don't know.
Yeah, that's up to you.
This is 80%. 80% of the reason why we've embarked upon this for the last 2 years, other than it just needed to be updated.
Yeah.
We needed to make our town more user-friendly, or we're just gonna
what makes
fade away.
What makes it tough, and it's in our ordinance, and it's an exact copy of what sits in the municipal law itself. You have to show, for test 1, which is the financial, whether you can make a rate of return, for each and every permitted or conditionally or special permitted use, you have to show for each one of those that you couldn't make a reasonable return. Not just one, but for each and every one of them. So if there are 3 permitted uses and 2 special use permits on the thing, you gotta have 5 examples of why you can't.
That's dead on arrival.
And well, as Charlie said when we were talking about other ones, it's almost impossible to meet. I said, yep, it is. I didn't write the law, I wasn't on the court when the court made the decision or made the other one.
Fair enough, yeah.
It's probably easier to get the zoning changed, in theory, easier to get the zoning changed than to get the use variance.
In the original zoning, I mean, I can remember it as a kid when they were going through it. Their main focus was to keep single-wide trailers out of the town of Western. That was...
That's a bad reason.
But you can't do it anymore.
No, can't do that anymore. So anyway.
The land conservation. In our current law, we have that provision where the town board can override or oversee the planning board's decision.
Yeah.
The way this draft is right now, we don't have that in there. Is that something the board members?
If we think we should have it, we'll just write it in there.
So in our current land
Is that something you think is necessary, that it basically within the land conservation district, and now with the new ordinance, it would also be with the commercial overlay, because they are overlays, that right now, if the planning board approves a use within the land conservation district, the town board can override it. Do you want us to keep that in the new ordinance?
Yes.
give the town board permission to override it, and I can do the same thing within the commercial overlay if you want that too.
Yes, please.
That's why in the new town hall, we're gonna have a boxing ring.
You know, we're gonna have one of those fenced-in things that they use for UFC,
Yeah.
MMA.
the ring.
And,
Jello wrestling.
yeah,
Don, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wondered, would the town board need to vote whether or not they wanted to do that, or would she just be able to say?
No, the town board would have to vote.
No, I meant,
no, it wouldn't be a vote,
Oh.
they have to consider it.
Yeah,
right,
So they don't have to formally take a vote on it in our current law, they just have to consider it.
yeah.
But it just gives an option that the people have an elected representative that can have a say on those projects.
Those paid people can make better decisions than us free.
And that would apply to the overlay districts, like the commercial overlay in the land conservation district, where basically, within land conservation, you're regulating what they can actually do with the land. With the commercial overlay, you would be granting them special permission to have a commercial facility where it's not normally allowed.
So if a constituent had an issue with the planning board's decision within the commercial overlay, they could then attend a town board meeting, bring
Yes.
that issue
They could come
to
to the
light
town,
and express their concerns.
they could express their concerns. The other option they have is what's called an Article 78,
Court.
which is to go to New York State Supreme Court, and it basically is a complaint to the court that a particular entity, like the town board or the planning board or the zoning board, did not do their jobs properly, and ask the court to determine whether or not they did. But that comes at their own expense too.
Well,
Well, you don't see a lot of them.
what if somebody's partially into whatever it was they wanted to do before all this come to light? Say I had a commercial entity that I wanted to put in this commercial overlay, and I got the blessing from everybody here.
There's no such thing, I mean, as a blessing from everybody here.
Blessing doesn't mean anything. Blessing doesn't
I mean,
mean
God
anything.
bless one and all,
The
but
question I would look at, and like I say, I'm not the judge, it's not for me to determine. The question I would ask, did the codes officer grant you a permit?
yes.
If he granted you a permit, then it's considered a pre-existing permit, and you go ahead and put it in. If he did not grant you a permit, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Come back in and readdress it under the new.
Well, I don't know why anybody would start construction on a facility without having a permit, as far as that. But what I'm saying is, what if this permit is granted and,
No, the point is here, if
No,
under
it'll
the
be
existing.
written in there that
Yeah,
the town board, by supermajority, or I should say that, the town board must consider the project at an open meeting. Then, if there's an objection to it, they can only override with a supermajority. It's
Yeah.
written the same way that we have in our current law. I just like it gives a chance to the elected
yeah.
people.
Sure. Yeah, it's very fair.
I would double check with your attorney on that, because that's kind of unusual.
Is it?
Yeah, normally if we grant a special use permit, that's it.
Okay.
If there's something else we do, then the
Yeah, I would
town
just
board could
run
consider
that
that, but
by-
that's not normally, once they appoint us to take care of that sort of thing, it's up to us to do it, either the ZBA or the planning board, depending on who's given the responsibility to grant the permit.
I mean, that was written 40 years ago, so.
Yeah.
Right.
well, this is, like I said, part of the whole idea, so that this thing doesn't drag on. Somebody's got an idea, they wanna invest in our community, and we take 2-3 years to give them an answer.
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah, you want to cut through that.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
streamline things.
They've moved down the road already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just say no in a hurry, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Save them the hassle.
Unless Charlie had a question. So nobody else is doing that then.
I don't know of anybody else that does that. Some towns have the town board actually do the special permits. That's
Yeah.
not that uncommon. Rather than having the planning board do it, they do it themselves. That's always an option you can take with the
Well,
overlay district.
No elected official wants to put that target on
Yeah,
their
the alternative to
Yeah.
that is to give the ZBA the sole authority to grant special use permits. Okay?
Yeah,
So
you can
now,
do that
if you
too.
have a proposed use, say within the LC zone or the CO zone, the planning board still has the right to review and approve the use, and then pass that on to the ZBA for formal authorization of the special use permit. That's what we did with fire station. Planning board looked at, okay, this is an LC zone, is it appropriate to use this here? And we said yes. That got passed on to the ZBA, and the ZBA actually granted the conditional use permit, based on the information forwarded by the planning board. So you got those two options, it's just. Because normally, when you grant special use, or in our case, the conditional use authority, the ZBA actually becomes the original authority, where somebody can come right straight to the ZBA and say, I want approval for a special use permit to do this. Normally, they would go to the codes officer and he'd say, no, you need a special use permit. It comes straight to us, even if he hasn't even denied it yet. That's the one part of the ZBA's authority that isn't appellate only, which means, the difference is if you have original authority, it means you can take it on without having someone else rule on it first. For the appellate authority, somebody else makes the ruling and you appeal it to the ZBA. So typically when somebody comes in for an area variance or a use variance, or even an interpretation, the codes officer will have made a ruling. And then we act as the place where they can appeal that ruling. The only time that doesn't exist is if somebody needs a conditional use permit. You know, Scott could just tell them, go to the ZBA and ask for conditional use. If they approve it, I'll give you your permit. Now, if we give the planning board special use permit authority for the commercial overlay, then it's the planning board that does the granting of the thing, and they would become the original authority for special use permits.
Sometimes that responsibility is a hot potato.
The difference would be that if the planning board approves a use as appropriate in the commercial overlay or the land conservation district, or if we have the plan development districts there, that could be reviewed by the town board, and the town board could vote no. If the planning board has original authority for special use permits and we grant it, that's it, that special use permit is issued. Town board can't rescind it. That's the way the authorities work. So I don't know which way you would prefer to have it. If we leave the special use permits out of the planning board's hands, that gives the town board at least the right to look it over and say no. So that's one of those things we need to think about, and we can change what's written for the new law, or just leave it as is.
Like I say, they're good.
One less thing the ZBA has to do.
And how many elected officials want that target on their back?
That's what they get the big bucks for, right?
Yeah.
It's not, it's, well,
I'm leaving you an out here, Diane, you gotta take it.
The question is, do you think it's wise to have the town board have that authority? Would you like the town board to be able to have the authority to review a planning board decision before the ZBA makes a final determination on any special use permit?
See, I don't think that needs to go to the town board.
it's been working the way we've done, because that was
Yeah.
the old ones.
That was some of the old stuff there that said that, but yeah, but the newer ones.
Wouldn't that make things a lot more cumbersome?
I mean, having
That's
to be
another layer.
two-step with a review in between, yeah, it could be.
Sounds like a three-step,
So
actually.
then what's the point in even having the planning?
Well, the
board
town board doesn't have to approve it.
Even decide anything?
If the planning board approves the use and said, the ZBA will authorize the permit based on what we said, the town board can just ignore that They don't have to, they just have to be aware of it.
Then
And,
they'll all stand there like this, hands off. We
and they
ain't
just
touching
say,
it.
no, that's fine with us, we're not gonna take a vote and just let it go.
But if you don't grant it, the person who's looking for it appeals to the ZBA and then to the town board.
If the planning board has special use permit authority for the CO in the Land Conservation District, if we deny it, it's done. There is no appeal.
There is no appeal.
Just the Article 78.
Just the Article
Just
78.
the Article
within court.
78, yeah.
Same thing works for the ZBA. If it's something that the ZBA rules on, and we say no, then Article 78 is the only alternative that they have, it's all been done with.
So there is a mechanism there.
So there's a mechanism there for somebody to seek redress of grievance, as it were.
An expensive one, but
Yep.
Would seem it would be, just at first thought, it would be more streamlined and I guess traditional, for lack of a better word. You just run it through the ZBA, make the decision.
Yeah.
And if they don't like it, they can use the Article 78.
Yeah.
That's the very typical way to do
That's
this.
typically how it's done, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're only talking the LC or the commercial that involves the.
Yeah, in fact, I don't know about the old LC, there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that the planning board considers. I don't think the new one has that much
No.
written in it. It just gave the planning board approval for special use permit. The way we could do it is that if somebody's applying for a permit, special use permit comes to the ZBA, if the ZBA says, oh, this is a use in a commercial overlay or use in the land conservation, we want concurrence from the planning board.
But won't your land conservation usually involve somebody like the DEC or Federal Wetland Authority or something? I mean, most of that.
Not as far as zoning permits are concerned.
Building permits, yes.
Building permits, yes. Yeah, all we would determine, we would sit there and look at it, is that an appropriate use for that particular land in that particular area?
So,
And the ZBA could just deny the permit and have done with it, not even refer it to the planning board, but I would like, for those ones where there's other things involved, I would at least like to see the planning board have a voice in it.
sure. So if
Even if it was nothing that said no objection.
if it went
Like a
through,
recommendation.
Yeah.
if it went through the ZBA voted affirmatively to move it to the planning board, so it would then be formally approved if the planning board has no objection.
If the planning board had no objections, then the ZBA would then vote to approve, yeah.
Okay, so
Not
now,
vote- no,
Come back to vote.
It would be, before we would vote on it, we would say, we'd like the planning board's opinion on this.
okay,
Pass all the information to the planning board, then they can come back and say, yeah, we're fine with that, or, yeah, but you need to put the following conditions on the permit. Comes back to us, we would then issue a permit with the conditions imposed by the planning board. Kind of like we did with the fire department, so subject to the
yeah,
to the conditions imposed by the planning board and their approval, you have a permit.
that works,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's when Carl and I said there were two hats on the table. Just keep
You sit
drinking.
here with three, you're on the fire department too.
Yeah, stuff to think about.
So how do, we can think about that. It won't take me more than about 10 minutes to actually make the change in there, if that's what we want to do with it.
Yep, I'll get you the new map, the SAP.
Okay.
and-
Aren't you getting about sick of coming to Westernville yet?
Well, it's not bad in the summer. All these detours, a new detour every time.
Yeah.
One. Just going all over the place.
All over, everywhere, yeah. I don't know, talk ourselves out for the night?
Yeah.
I think so. I think it concludes our conversation.
All stuff that needed to be bounced off the walls.
Mhm.
All right, so what I'll do is I will probably, I can probably send a PDF copy of the part 1 and part 2 of the EAF. I'll send those to Larry. I'll have him put it on the town website. So probably, hopefully within a day or two, we'll get that on the website so you guys can look at it. And there'll be there, anybody else who wants to review it, it'll be there too.
Sure. Carl, did you get your email groups all put together?
I checked mine out, and I have to double check that I've got everybody's correct address.
Okay, yeah, just,
So actually, if you're on the zoning board, write down your correct email address for me, and I'll make sure.
You're asking a lot out of me.
You always get my emails, I'm not worried about you. Write your,
Phil uses smoke signal.
yeah, write your email down there,
She
so I'll
didn't
make
get
sure that
anything for
I'm using
last-
the correct one.
Anything for last week or this week? That I knew
I haven't
of?
sent anything out this past week.
Have we cornered anybody for
Right.
secretaries for your?
Yeah, Diane mentioned she had somebody who was a possible secretary.
For both, or?
I asked somebody and they haven't heard back.
Okay. Yeah, because we need one for both boards.
Your email?
I'm on the planning, do you want?
No, I don't need the planning board ones up.
Pete,
I
Pete's
think
got mine, it's working.
Pete's email seems to be working okay.
Okay.
You're planning, right?
Ask you to make sure, don't give it out,
No,
because I get wonky enough.
what I do is I have my own mailing list, and all I do is call up the mailing list and it goes out that way.
Okay.
Has anyone been trying to reach you about your extended warranty?
Oh, geez.
We'll put it on Facebook.
All the time.
Jenny would like
Every
an
day.
extended warranty.
If it's on my life, I'll take the extended warranty.
I tell them both my vehicles are well over 150,000 miles, they start leaving me alone.
Yep.
I'm sure you don't want it.
Actually, I took them through the whole thing, and one of the last questions, how many miles on your current vehicle? Oh, we can't do this. I says, I knew that.
Hey Carl, you better move to adjourn, so you keep your,
Move to adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
All in favor?
you can go up 46 on it in Boonville.
Mr. Antonovich, I got a question for you before you leave.
Yeah, if
You want-
you
How much yourself you want?
46 to Boonville.
Yeah, if you can have them create the PDF full size like this, like 24 by 36. Yeah, I can print one. How big? Full. C-size or D-size? C or D, yeah. Okay, I can do that, Pat. Take care.
And then, tonight, I get home. It smells smoke. Bad. So I'm getting worried. I'm burning. Great trouble with the farm. I walked down the farm, I didn't see anything. All of a sudden, there's this cloud. So I buzzed around over the hill.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. And Joe were sitting in the driveway. I said, you guys burning something? I don't know. Well, I think they are. Maybe those guys are. If we look at it, it stinks. I don't know what they are.
Probably not good stuff.
No, it's.
All right, here's the scenario.
Go ahead, Phil.
A buddy of mine just retired. 62, on the social security in his retirement. Small into it. One of the things he wanted to do in retirement.
So my question for you was, when you asked Diane if she wanted that included, my question is that something that the board would need to decide, or could she decide for them?
You know, I didn't really want to address that. I mean, she looks at it like her, strictly speaking, she ought to ask the rest of the board.
Yeah, because he was,
Yeah,
like he was saying, they want a target on their back and it's her.
Rather than just be the sole voice of it.
But I knew what you were saying. I don't think they would have decided.
They will still have one more review they have to pass on with that final draft.
Right.
In fact, once we get any of these changes put in, then I'll declare it as the final draft. That's the one that'll go to the county for their review. And we'll send it over to the town of Lee, the town of Boonville, everybody that surrounds the town of Western, as a courtesy, to get to look at it. And then if we don't get any comments back, then we take that declaration that you saw there, that had all the different things in there, then we vote on that to approve it. And that would establish the negative declaration. That actually gets published on the DEC's website.
Right.
They have a specific spot where all these are.
One quick question. With respect to Hamlets, overall, what is the move in that direction for? How, just general? I know there's a lot.
I don't honestly know. Basically the designation is actually an informal one. The state, the municipal law doesn't define a hamlet specifically.
What's the benefit of it?
The only benefit that we're doing on the thing is when we define the hamlet, you can apply certain zoning restrictions within a heavily populated area that you wouldn't want to apply on the rest of the town.
Or RA or
So for
whatever.
example, so we'll have a big RRA that's pretty much, hey, anything that doesn't disturb your neighbors, okay with us. Open space said, hey, you can't do anything on less than 5 acres and you gotta leave the land alone, so you can recreate or whatever.
So what about people in the Hamlet zoning? How is that going to affect pre-existing?
It won't. Anything that pre-exists
Oh, I
the
got it.
passage of the ordinance it's what they call a prior non-conforming use.
Something like the gas station is in the Hamlet,
Yeah.
but it's commercial.
Well, I think they have a variance. I think they actually got a variance passed. They had the thing put in there. The
Now-
variance goes with the property, not with the owner of the.
So with respect to other property next to the gas station, on either side, there are big chunks there that could be very nice commercial spots for someone, but
Well, that's why we have the commercial overlay.
But does that overlay go down Main Street? Because I thought it was 46. Or,
Yeah, that's what it was reading as.
or is it 600 feet on either side?
Either side of 46.
And now 300 and
Yeah, so-
600.
Yeah.
So it would take up
Yeah,
all of Main
basically,
Street.
basically this entire
Yes.
Main Street would sit on a commercial overlay,
Good.
so that somebody would at least have the option.
On both sides.
On both
So
sides.
what's
With
the-
300 on one, 600 on the other side of 46.
Well, Stokes Westerville goes 600 feet that way and
Yes.
whatever distance it is to the blue line. And to be honest with you, on that side of the thing, everybody's got homes and residents. I don't ever see
Except
anybody
A-OK.
coming in. Except A-OK. And they were pre-existing.
Yes, correct. Cool. Okay, that's neat. Thank you so much.
And
Very
again,
good.
with the overlay, that's one of those things, if he came into the ZBA and said, we want our special use permit, I said, what do you plan on doing and where? Oh, you're in the commercial overlay. You know what? Let's let the planning board take a look at this and see what they think. If they have no objection, we'll take it up and we'll grant you a
Carl,
permit.
this was
This way, and one of the reasons we did it, you get so much more control over stuff. And at times it'll seem arbitrary that somebody says, that's not appropriate, or this is appropriate. So, well, you gave it to him, you go, well, what commercial use did we approve there? What commercial use are you proposing? If
Right.
they're the same one, yeah, you're right, we should be giving you the same consideration. If it's a different one, and one of the things is you have to, at least meet the character of the neighborhood. So if you're going in there, you're gonna change something and make something that's really, really different from all of the houses and stuff there. We would
Coal
probably
mining.
say, yeah, coal mining, or, putting in a gas,
put in a
putting in a
skyscraper.
gas, if somebody's, let's put a gas station on Stokes Westerville Road. So, well, not only are you in the commercial overlay zone, but you're sitting right next to the lake.
Yeah.
And probably not an appropriate use, and the
Yeah.
DEC would probably give you a hard time about it.
probably. This meeting today, I think a lot of people are gonna like the way that you guys deliberated these maps and made changes on the fly. And I know months ago when we started this, Pete and some other folks were saying, we're not gonna give it to you till it's done. But this is perfect, 'cause now people realize the work that goes into
I
it.
have no problem with somebody seeing how we're deliberating. My only worry is that somebody will see something and misinterpret it and then come in and be pounding on the walls or the chairs or whatever. So, that's it, so, first of all, stop.
Stop,
That's
found
when you
it.
turn around and say, well, maybe if you'd come to the previous.
Yeah,
First of all, it's not a public hearing, and second of all,
Exactly.
we've been working on this for 2.5 years.
Exactly.
And putting all this stuff
Get
in place.
involved and see what's
Now all of a
happening, how it
sudden you
goes.
decide you want to show up at the meeting because you heard something.
Right, and we appreciate if we have questions, you guys
Well,
will
and
take
one of the things
some
I
of those.
pushed hard on Diane, and I don't know if it was my doing or whatever. I said, we've had a town website here for years, and it sucks. Nothing gets
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
You send the guy something, it doesn't get done. I told her, I said, give me the damn thing. So I've got time. I'll put the stuff on the website and keep it up to date. And she said, no, what we finally decided to do is go back to digital tokens.
Which is good.
And have them provide all
They're
the
all
stuff.
over.
They're all over the place, and she and Larry and somebody else went to the I was gonna take the training course, and I had something else going on that night. But Larry said he'll sit down with me and show me how to put this. I would like to be able to put, at least put stuff on there from the ZBA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's not hard to do. You just need a file, you download it on the server, and you put a reference on it.
There you go.
I
Awesome.
mean, I've built websites before, so it's not a...
Okie dokie, thanks so much.
So, yeah, and a lot of people do that. As long as the stuff gets put out and you don't do some special editing, you know, to make it look different from what it is.
We don't.
I'm all for the public seeing what's
You
going on.
watched it, right? And you see exactly what happened.
I'm all for the public having access to the stuff. I said, you don't want to come to the meeting, you can watch what happens
Exactly,
later.
that's why we did it.
But if
Or people who can't get out.
You can't come next week and complain that we did something and you weren't happy with it because you had the right to be there.
Yeah, exactly.
And we meet, you know, the zoning
Oh,
board
that's
meets
one thing.
every
I
fourth
have a
Monday.
silly question, idea, whatever, but if we knew ahead of time what the meeting is going to be, or if you posted it on the digital
The
web.
agenda.
Yeah, and Larry has a couple of times.
He has done it
Pete
sometimes.
and I usually try to put some sort of an agenda together.
Yeah, because this way people
And
can
then
say, oh, I need to be here for
he
this,
will put
or
it on the
add.
calendar and say, here's the
Right, cool.
So, well, that'll take time.
Get used to doing that. Prior to that, so, okay, we're gonna act on it, come in here, it's okay, here's what we're doing tonight,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, good.
When I was about 18, we were bringing bags of sandblasting sand up the track, bum bags, like bag of concrete. I was taking two, picking them off back, pickup truck, bend down, setting them down, it's actually hard to turn them off.
So they have to walk back. You can tell it's not